And hi, everyone. This is Rachelle and Miriam. I just want to start off with a story because that started a whole conversation between Miriam and I. And we realized that the information would probably be helpful to you. I got up at 3:30 in the morning and I couldn't get back to sleep. And for some reason, I got obsessed by the idea that I wanted to read a book on marriage relations. So I started reading this book on marriage relations, and it was basically how I could have changed my behavior and approached the situation differently, and maybe I'd still be married today. And I started getting feelings of guilt, I got depressed
Beating
about it.
yourself up.
I started beating that right, and I came in and I told you this, and you took the what I told you and you put it in a much broader context and showed me how I have to really think about the information that I'm getting. So, what was it that you told me I should do?
So my experience in life is that being brought up in the religious system, very from the age of 0, is that and it's not only the Jewish religious system, and it's not only and and you can even hear, like, everywhere, like everybody comes up with their idea, whether it's in the Jewish religion, whether it's in another religion, whether it's in science, even, in modern old psychology or modern psychology, doesn't matter,
Yeah.
and it's like everybody comes up with this idea and everybody runs after it,
Like a formula. Oh, this is going
right,
to be it. This is
right,
it. This is going to save you if you
right,
use this methodology.
right.
Yeah.
And like I've awakened up to the idea one day, like after growing up in the religious system and a little bit rebelling it, throughout lifetime, because I saw how some um, indoctrination is dangerous.
Yeah.
Fanaticism of all kinds, whether it's religious or scientific, is dangerous.
Yeah.
And I've seen it over and over, ruin people's lives. Like, we got to be smart about everything we intake. Everything we read, we have to really open up our eyes and really, first of all, put it into context. And, and no matter how wise that person is, and even if 99% of what they're saying is pure wisdom and is enormously smart, there could be a 0.01% there that is complete stupidity.
Or it doesn't relate to
Or
you.
it doesn't relate to me. It's not what I need to read at the moment. It's not right. It's maybe right for some people in some moments, but it's not healthy for me to hear it now. So you could also, of course, say that if Hashem sent it to you down your way right this second, then you need it. Maybe yes, maybe not. Maybe you need to understand from it something else.
Yes.
You
Not
need
all of it. Maybe
right.
just a piece of it.
You really need to. And Reb Nachman has a beautiful concept called making the Torahs into tefillahs and making the tefillahs into Torahs. Meaning making the prayer or praying over everything that we're learning. And then having new realizations from the prayer that we make into our own Torah. In a way, we're saying, one of the things we're saying in our morning prayer, we say, Ten chalkeinu b'toratecha. We actually say it 3 times a day after Shemona Esrei. Ten chalkeinu b'toratecha. Give me my share in the Torah. And like we were saying before, what is Torah? Torah is teaching.
Right.
So give me my teaching. Don't only let me learn the Torah as a whole, as this big ocean of knowledge, but give me my piece of knowledge that is going to heal my life. So, like we were saying about the Rambam, for example, who says that you can hit a woman up to once a month. right?
That got
Like
a lot of
you could
laughs.
really, that could get a lot of laughs. It could also be, like some people can still read it literally in our days.
I know, and get very upset about it.
Right, where even the legal system is not going to agree with that, and the holy system, the religious system, should be so much deeper and holier than the legal system, right? But then we have to look into the context. What is the context? The Rambam was living in a place in a time where women were complete slaves.
And beat up regularly.
In a very Muslim society where women are still beat up regularly today. Sorry, but that's the truth. Unfortunately. I hope that, that will end soon, change soon, right? But it's still the reality. And so in his reality, that's what he chose to say. Because he can say, make teshuvah from 0 to 100 in one day. Right? So in a way, he said, make the teshuvah from 0 to 99 in one day. But like, if you read it literally, A, you might think that you can still beat your wife once a month. And B, you're, where are you going to grow there spiritually, and you're going to completely maybe throw the Rambam's writings aside because he said something like that if you don't realize in what context he said it.
And imagine that you're teaching restriction. You only can hit your wife once a month.
Up to once a month.
Right. So that means you have to start thinking about it. You can't just be doing this every day whenever as a reflex.
Right.
So you're teaching people to be more mindful.
Because she didn't bring the salt to the table.
Whatever. Right. Yeah. She burnt the cow.
Right. So everything, so we're reading things without our own innovation in it.
Yeah.
We're reading them literally. We're not trying to innovate them.
Right.
We're not trying to put them in the right context of where they were written.
Yes.
And we're not trying to bring them into our context of where they might be elevated to the next level. Definitely. And unfortunately, like I see that a lot happening
in relationships.
Books. No, but I want to say, first of all, in all three major religions.
Oh, okay.
And I understand sometimes, therefore, why people sometimes really want to turn their backs on religions.
Yeah.
Because people who do read it with an innovation sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard for them to accept those kind of things when they read them. So, for example, tell me what you read in the Duty of the Hearts today.
Oh, that, to abstinence, that you can't eat anything that your body doesn't need, and if it, you can't sleep any more than you need to, and you can't make too much money, you're only supposed to make enough to survive, that this is how you get closer to God.
Right.
Abstinence.
Right. So first of all, what is getting closer to God? We need to look into that term. What does it mean to be close to God? That's number one.
Right.
Number two is like what I've seen. It's first of all, again, like we said, our sages were so knowledgeable about all disciplines.
Right.
Today, we're so knowledgeable about the biology of the brain, about neurology, about our psychology.
Right.
Now think how, and that's how I grew up, reading those texts when you're 12 or 14 years old.
Ugh.
And thinking, oh my gosh, like every time I have an ice cream, in a way, maybe I'm a sinner. That's the feeling that you came with this morning, right?
I'm farther away from God now because I ate something that I really didn't need.
Right.
And I really enjoy.
Right. So the Rambam teaches us that when you want to change something in your life, and nowadays we know it also in psychology, in detoxification, right? You need to disengage from it completely. Mm-hmm. But it's relative. It's temporary.
It's not a lifetime thing.
It's not a lifetime thing. Exactly. It's if you want to change your norms in life, you feel that it's really hard. There are two ways of doing it. First of all, let's say you're having too much sugar in your coffee, okay? So there are two ways of doing it. Either you completely stop on your sugar in your coffee,
right?
Or you'd say from 2 spoons, I'll go down to 1 spoon.
Yeah.
From 1 spoon, I'll go to half a spoon.
Yeah.
And from half a spoon, it will be easier for me to go to 0 spoons.
Wean yourself off.
Wean yourself off, right? So when you say it in that manner, right? It's like when you tell it, and it's interesting. We're just learning about it this week in the parsha. That in Chassidus we learn, we all know there's the mitzvah of rebuke. So you can rebuke others, but you can also rebuke yourself. In a way, when we learn those kind of texts, we're rebuking ourselves.
Definitely.
And it's not working.
I feel terrible.
And it's not working. The rebuke system also has to have a measure. The awe versus the love. And Chassidus teaches us that nowadays we need to rebuke ourselves and each other with love. So we much more go from that instead of like it's very hard to go from 2 spoons to 0 spoons. Much easier to tell myself, hey, you really want to wean yourself off. I know it's really hard to wean yourself off completely from 2 spoons to 0 spoons. So why don't you go down gradually?
Yeah. That's easier, let me tell you.
So really what the duty of the hearts means, it means exactly that. But it talks in a very dramatic way.
Oh, very much.
And it's not the narrative that suits us. It's a narrative and it's very much inspired by Christian and Muslim theologies that he was surrounded with.
Now, how long ago was Rabbi Abaya, right?
Which was, I don't remember exactly. Right. But and it's the idea is that I think he was more surrounded with Christian actually theologies,
right,
which were very much in the time of where people would what's the word in English? I forget. Like where people would beat up themselves, like literally with chains.
Yes,
and
I forgot. Self-flagellation.
Right.
Oh yes.
So it was. That's the context.
That's
true. But we're in a different world. We're in a world where we realize this is not the way to talk to people. This is not the way to teach them, to educate them, to help them make a change in their lives.
Yeah.
So we're into a much softer narrative in our days. So when you teach little children, and that's how I was brought up, and I also felt like a big sinner over every pleasure in life. But it's because those things were taught in a very literal way, without the context, without explaining the psychology behind it. But if I explain you the psychology behind it, then it sounds totally different, right?
Also, we know that Hashem is with us. It's like Hashem is always with us.
Right. So that brings me to the next thing, which is what is being close to Hashem?
Yeah.
Being close to Hashem is being close both materialistically and spiritually.
Okay.
The Mashilach from 150 years ago brings a very interesting concept. He says, Hashem did not bring materialism into this world so that you will keep fighting with materialism to conquer it, to overcome your materialistic needs. Hashem brought materialism not in order to test you,
right,
not in order to make your life difficult.
Yeah.
But Hashem had brought materialism into the world because you need a lot of things to make you a happy person. And just like you need fruits and vegetables and meat and chicken and fish, and you need them all nutritionally.
Right.
I mean, you can, I don't know, like I said some things that are maybe, not so important nutritionally, but you get the idea that, like you need
to sustain yourself. Right.
So also on a pleasure level, you need both materialism and spirituality to sustain your spirit.
It's true.
And just like as much as you love chocolate, if I'm only going to feed you only chocolate, you're going to
be sick.
Right. Not only be sick, you're going to hate it. Eventually, you're going to be like, I don't want to ever see chocolate again in my life. Or no matter how much you like steak or pasta,
Too
if
much
I
of a
feed you,
good thing.
exactly, you'll be sick of it. You'll hate it.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
True.
So Hashem said, like, have a little materialism, have a little spirituality, then go back to materialism, go back to spirituality. Just do it in a balanced way.
Yeah.
In a way that won't hurt your body
Right.
and won't hurt your spirit.
Yeah. So I feel much better now. I got what I needed to get from the text that I read. Some of it I'll be able to change my behavior, but that doesn't mean that my major choices were made in a superficial way. I did.
But in a conscious one.
Right. Yep. I had to look at things in a much broader context than I was when I read that book at 3:30 in the morning.
And the other thing is, that book that you were reading had to, spoke highly of women as being the main factor in marriage destruction.
Yes, right.
And unfortunately, that's a narrative that I've been hearing over the years. Not in this particular way of saying it, but it's something that I heard in different forms throughout my religious
giving
bringing.
Women the responsibility. For the divorces.
So I want to say like this. First of all, we know biologically that women are more submissive,
mm-hmm.
and women are more are less argumentative. Sorry, that men are less argumentative. Less argumentative.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Men are more avoidant of arguments.
Yeah. Yes.
But men are much more confrontational in the other way, because they're the ones who needed to, attack the tiger that would come to hurt their family, right?
Yes.
But the women, on the other hand, what creates mother's milk is oxytocin.
Right.
So that's why we're much more serene in our existence. So, and men are, so like we need to keep that calmness in us so that we can get the oxytocin, so that we can have mother's milk.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Right. So,
so we're pushed to be that way.
Right, we're pushed to be that way. But then what happened with the feminist movement, I think it happened over the last couple of 100 years, not the last 60 years, 70 years, but the last couple of 100 years, over the last few hundreds of years, women have come more and more to the realization that they need to stand their own ground. They need to be able to feed their children on their own. Lives have taught us that women have to be able to do much more for themselves and for their children.
That's very true.
That they cannot count on the men beside them, unfortunately.
Can't be totally dependent.
No. Right. And it created many psychological changes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's also creating many biological changes in our brain. I don't know how much it's been researched.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's creating a lot of biological changes in our brain, mm-hmm. and new neurological paths in our brains that we observe life in a different manner. We see life in a different manner. So,
because survival is different in our lifetime.
Right. So the woman has very much, the past woman was very much the moon, and the man was very much the sun.
Yeah.
Women had to figure out, do I want to be the moon, or do I want to have more of my own light? And when I say more of my own light, I mean more of my own financial abilities, more of my own emotional independence.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Which brought finally, that was probably the final stage, the sexual revolution, the sexual feminist revolution, which brings a lot of side effects to our world. We're not going to get into that right now. But what I want to say is that, yeah, women maybe were built in a way that we should be the moon and let the sun shine strongly upon us. But we've been disappointed by the masculine in the world.
Yeah, I know.
And we needed to develop our own masculine forces, light. And what happens in our generation, I think, is that women and men meet each other from the place of not figuring out who's the moon and who's the sun. Mm-hmm. And we need to recapture or retell the story.
Right.
You know, we need to make different agreements between us. First of all, be aware of it, you know?
Yeah.
Am I a very strong son, even though I'm a woman? Have you become much, and it's hurt men's image also of themselves.
Yeah, I know.
Because, you know, one of the things I find myself telling to a lot of women is, if you want to push a man away, just take into a realization that, you know, next time you'll want a man approaching you and being more active towards the relationship. Mm-hmm. We've pushed men a bit away.
Yeah.
By aggressive non-acceptance of men.
Yes, definitely.
By being so intimidated and afraid of men, we've pushed them away, and we've taken away their masculines, and we've emasculated them basically, and we've created a situation here. And a lot of the Me Too movement, you know, like it's not exactly that the Me Too has, like, I'm not putting the blame on the women. What I'm saying is that women are, like when you say no to a man, just say it in a gentle way, you know? You don't need to emasculate him.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it for an example.
Right. And then you don't have to be so emasculated by a woman telling you no.
True.
Right? You're still a great guy, and you still have a lot to give to another woman. Or if it's your wife, on another occasion to your wife.
Yeah.
Don't be so, you know, like, don't let it ruin your masculinity. But we all need to, what's the word? Rephrase the context of who's the man and who's the son in our relationship.
Who's the moon?
Who's the moon and who's the sun in our relationships?
Yeah.
To what extent I want to be a moon, even if I'm a man,
mm-hmm.
and to what extent, and you want to be a sun, even if you're a woman. And how and why in my psychology I'm becoming more of a moon,
right?
Even though I'm a man. And why in your psychology you're becoming more of a sun, even though you're a woman. And how do we let that inspire our marriage rather than ruin it, our relationship?
Now, you may want to explain what is the difference between the sun and the moon. What is it you're talking about?
Okay.
Like, what are the attributes of the sun and the attributes of the moon?
So the sun is the great light of the world, and the moon is the reflection of the sun, basically.
Okay.
Right? So who is the major light in the relationship?
Right.
And who's the reflection? Doesn't make anybody less.
No.
Doesn't make anybody smaller. But in the metaphor, in the allegory, it's that's the idea.
Is one more passive and the other one more active, or is that part of the description?
Yes, that's part of the description. Am I being am I choosing this particular mate person,
right?
Because of the moonness or the sunness in them.
Okay.
Or the moonness or the sunness in me. Do I like to reflect somebody's light? Do I like to be the quiet, more passive in the relationship?
Right.
Or do I like being the more active one? We need to identify both in our relationship.
That would be wonderful.
So that we can not have these constant battles over little things,
Right.
but realize, identify, who are we? Which role are we playing in this relationship?
Yeah. Come to your own understanding of yourself too.
Right.
And,
Notice that
and not judge it.
Right. Notice that some people are more quiet than others.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the guy, sometimes it's the woman. There are
Right.
women who are very comfortable with their men being like the center of the scene.
Right.
There are women who feel that, why are you taking over? Why are you not giving me my space, right? Learn to identify that and talk about it, so that you don't go back to like always the same. Why did you do that at that party? No, it's deeper than that. What is it inside of us that attracted us to each other to begin with? You probably haven't started, unless you started doing it after you were deep into the relationship, because maybe one of you is a narcissist, and you've hidden those qualities until you felt like you're comfortable enough to. That's a different story.
Yes.
But if you're noticing it in the beginning, it doesn't matter. Also, if you're noticing it later, you can still save your relationship on a more progressive time in your relationship, and by identifying who you are in the relationship, the moon or the sun, to what degree.
And
it's not definite.
Right. And it can change over time.
Right.
Depending upon health issues and family issues.
Codependency. Like, how much do you change your self-image in front of yourself? How much you change your self-confidence?
Right.
You grow to be a sun. Even if you were a moon, you grow to be a sun.
Yes. But to become aware of that.
Maybe you were a sun that was shut down.
Yeah.
And you need to rekindle the sunness inside you.
Yeah. And it doesn't you can't necessarily say this is a masculine trait and this is a feminine trait.
No. Well.
And that, I'm being too much of the man in the relationship, or I'm being too much of the you know what I mean? I think these traits are judged. We judge it.
Right.
It
doesn't necessarily mean that the man should be the sun and the woman should be the moon. Yeah.
Or in everything. Maybe it varies from one situation to another.
Right. In general, Judaism talks a lot about the idea that everybody has a feminine and a masculine in them.
Yes.
So identify how much you have a feminine trait in you and how much you have a masculine trait in you. So it was good to be with you again.
Definitely.
I hope you enjoyed this episode also. And please send us your comments and thoughts, and subscribe to our channel and share it to your friends. And we hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful week. All the best.
All the best.